At around 2:30 in the morning, something crossed into Tehran without being stopped. No interception, no visible warning, no confirmed defense response. And within minutes, Israel claimed it had eliminated one of the most important intelligence figures in Iran, Esmail Khatib, a man rarely seen in public but deeply connected to intelligence operations, internal security, and covert networks beyond Iran borders. But here's the part that changes everything. Iran has not confirmed his death. No official acknowledgement, no public evidence, only silence. So what actually happened in Tehran that night? And more importantly, how does a strike reach that deep into one of the most defended capitals in the region? Because this is not just about a single target. It is about a method. And that method is what is quietly reshaping modern warfare. To understand the strike, you need to step back. This did not begin with one operation. In the days leading up to this moment, Israeli sources reported the elimination of multiple senior Iranian figures. Among them was Ali Larijani, described by analysts as a central figure in national-level coordination. Also reported was the death of Gholamreza Soleimani, a senior commander associated with the Basiji structure. These were not symbolic figures. They were operational, people tied to coordination, planning, and internal control. Then came a statement that shifted the entire strategic picture. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced standing authorization to target senior Iranian officials. No additional approval required. That means decisions can be executed immediately. Minutes instead of hours. Hours instead of days. And in modern targeting cycles, that speed is everything. Because high-value individuals do not remain exposed for long. They move unpredictably. They limit communications. They avoid patterns. Which makes what reportedly happened in Tehran even more significant. Because striking a target like that requires more than just a weapon. It requires a system. The first layer is intelligence. Modern operations combine multiple sources at the same time to ensure success. Satellite surveillance tracks movement over large areas. Signals intelligence monitors communications patterns. Cyber tools can access digital behavior, sometimes even location data. And then there are human networks, sources on the ground, who confirm presence, timing, and routine. When these layers overlap, a pattern begins to form. And once that pattern is confirmed, the window opens. But that window can close quickly, sometimes within minutes, which is why the strike system itself must be ready to act immediately. This is where long-range precision weapons come into play. Israel has developed and deployed a range of standoff strike capabilities over the years. These are weapons designed to be launched from a distance, without exposing aircraft to dense air defenses. Some are air-launched cruise missiles. These typically travel at subsonic speeds, often below 1,000 kilometers per hour. They fly low, very low, sometimes just tens of meters above ground level. This is intentional. Flying low keeps them under radar coverage for much of their route. Other systems include guided glide munitions. These are released from aircraft at high altitude and then glide toward the target using aerodynamic lift. They can adjust course mid-flight using onboard guidance. Some estimates suggest ranges extending beyond 100 kilometers. But speed alone does not define effectiveness. Navigation does. Modern precision weapons use layered guidance systems. Global navigation satellite systems provide initial direction. But in contested environments, those signals can be disrupted. So weapons rely on inertial navigation systems as a backup. These systems track movement internally using motion sensors. They do not depend on external signals. More advanced systems add terrain matching. This means the weapon compares the ground below with preloaded digital maps. It adjusts in real time to stay on course. In the final phase, some systems use electro-optical guidance. This allows the weapon to identify its target visually, matching what it sees with stored images. And this is how precision within a few meters becomes possible, even in dense urban environments. And that is critical, because Tehran is not an open battlefield. It is a complex, crowded city with layers of infrastructure. Which brings us to the biggest question. Why would defenses fail to stop such a strike? Iran has invested heavily in air defense systems. These include long-range platforms such as the S-300, along with domestically developed systems designed for layered coverage. On paper, these systems are capable. They can detect aircraft at long distances. They can track multiple targets. They can engage incoming threats. But real-world conditions are rarely perfect. Low-altitude threats are harder to detect. Urban terrain creates blind spots. Buildings, terrain elevation, and environmental clutter interfere with radar signals. Then there is electronic warfare. Jamming can delay detection. False signals can create confusion. Operators may see multiple targets, some real, some not. And in that confusion, timing becomes critical. Because from detection to interception, the window can be very short, sometimes just seconds. And if a weapon is already in its final approach, interception may no longer be possible. But there is another layer to this story. Uncertainty. No confirmation from Iran, no independent verification, no visual proof released. This is not unusual in modern conflict. Information itself has become part of the battlefield. A strike that is claimed but not confirmed creates pressure. It forces internal reviews. It raises questions inside command structures. It creates doubt. And doubt can be as powerful as physical damage, because it forces a system to question its own security. Are defenses working? Are movements being tracked? Is there a breach somewhere inside? These questions do not stay contained. They spread, and that is where the real impact begins, because if this strike did happen as described, it signals something much larger. It suggests that precision targeting inside heavily defended capitals is becoming more achievable, and if that becomes normalized, the rules of deterrence begin to shift. But what happens when leadership itself becomes a target category? And how do nations respond when the line between covert and direct conflict starts to disappear? That is where this story moves next. By the time the world began to understand what may have happened in Tehran, the pattern was already visible. This was not a single operation. This was a campaign. Within a matter of days, multiple senior Iranian figures were reportedly eliminated, including intelligence leadership, security coordination figures, and paramilitary command. And that pattern reveals something critical. This is what military analysts call a decapitation strategy. Decapitation strikes are not new, but the scale and precision now being demonstrated is different. The objective is not just to remove individuals. It is to disrupt the entire decision-making system. When leadership is targeted repeatedly, communication slows down. Orders become delayed. Trust inside the system begins to break, and in some cases, parallel chains of command start to emerge. That creates confusion. And confusion in a high-intensity conflict can be as damaging as physical destruction. But there is something even more important here. These strikes are happening deep inside Iran, not on the border, not in remote areas, but inside Tehran. This suggests a level of intelligence penetration that goes far beyond traditional surveillance, because locating a high-value individual inside a major city requires real-time awareness. In at least one previous case, reports indicated that local information played a role in tracking a target moving between safe locations. That changes the equation entirely, because it means the battlefield is no longer just physical, it is internal. Now consider the timing. The strike reportedly occurred in the early morning hours. This is not random. Late night and early morning windows are often chosen for specific reasons. Reduced movement, lower traffic, fewer variables, but also because human alertness is lower. Even well-trained defense crews operate under fatigue cycles, and that matters, because modern air defense is not fully automated. Human operators still play a critical role in identification and engagement. If a threat appears during a low alert window, response time can increase, and in modern warfare, seconds matter. But timing alone does not guarantee success. The delivery method is just as important. One possibility is the use of low observable cruise missiles. These systems are designed to minimize radar detection. They fly low, follow terrain, and reduce their signature. Another possibility is the use of standoff glide munitions launched from outside dense defense zones. These can travel long distances without requiring the launching platform to enter contested airspace. There are also growing discussions around the integration of electronic warfare support. This can include signal disruption, radar interference, and even cyber effects targeting defense networks. The goal is not always to destroy defenses. Sometimes it is simply to delay them. Even a delay of a few seconds can be enough. And that leads to a critical point. Modern strikes are not single events, they are synchronized systems. Intelligence identifies the target. Cyber and electronic warfare shape the environment. Precision munitions execute the strike. And information operations shape the narrative afterward. Each layer supports the other. Remove one layer, and the entire operation becomes less effective. But when all layers work together, the result is something far more difficult to stop. Now look at the broader implications. If Israel is able to consistently target senior leadership figures inside Iran, it changes the concept of deterrence. Traditionally, leadership in capital cities is considered relatively secure, protected by layered defenses and distance. But that assumption may no longer hold. And if that changes, decision-making itself changes. Leaders may move more frequently. They may limit communication. They may avoid centralized command structures. All of this reduces efficiency. And in a conflict, reduced efficiency can have strategic consequences. But there is also a global dimension. This conflict is not isolated. It is already affecting energy markets, regional stability, and international security. Strikes on infrastructure have contributed to disruptions in oil supply routes, including pressure on the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global energy corridor. When that happens, the impact is not limited to one region. It spreads. Energy prices rise. Supply chains tighten. Political pressure increases. And that draws more actors into the situation. At the same time, retaliation is already underway. Iran has launched missile and drone attacks in response. This creates a cycle. Strike, response, escalation, and each step increases the risk of a wider conflict. But perhaps the most important shift is this. The line between covert operations and open warfare is disappearing. Targeted killings were once deniable, difficult to attribute, limited in scale. Now they are being announced publicly, confirmed by officials, integrated into broader military campaigns. That changes how they are perceived. So what does this mean going forward? If leadership at targeting becomes normalized, every high-level official becomes a potential target. Security becomes constant, movement becomes restricted, trust becomes fragile. Because in the end, this is not just about one strike, it is about the evolution of warfare itself, from mass conflict to precision disruption, from visible battles to invisible systems, from front lines to deep internal targets. And once that shift takes hold, there's no easy way to reverse it.